welcome back to the NoScore Review Show, where we have in-depth critique and nuanced discussion of some of the latest movies, video games, and television. I am your host, Nick Green, and today we'll be doing a full-on spoiler review of Dune Part 2, the next entry in Denis Villeneuve's sci-fi adaptation epic. If you want a spoiler-free review, you can go check out my other video on that, where me and my friend Matt just gave our general thoughts and kind of our expectations going in. We'll start off with that. I have two different guests here. Returning to the show, Michael Bentley, who helped me re-review Dune Part 1. Michael, welcome back. Glad to have you back on for Part 2 as well. It'll be nice to get your thoughts for both movies.
Always glad to be on the show. I just flew in and boy, are my arms tired.
He'll be here all week. It's Friday as of this recording, but he'll be here all week.
All work week.
Yeah, short week. And making his long-anticipated return to the NoScore Review Show, Danny Lazaro. It's been over a year since you've shown your beautiful face and shared your illustrious vocal tones. I think the last thing I had you on for was God of War Ragnarok, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that one. I'm always thinking about Rings of Power.
That's your big claim to fame for this show. Yeah. But yeah, glad to have you on. You're a big Dune fan. I've been talking about this upcoming release with you in the months prior to its release. So I know you're very excited, but yeah, we'll just kind of start with both of your just brief general thoughts and expectations going in, and then we'll get into the good stuff, all the nitty gritty. But just off the top, spoiler warning for Dune Part 2 going into this video. So if you haven't seen it yet, pause the video, come on back once you've seen it, and yeah, we'll get into it. So Danny, let's start with you.
Oh God, we're going into it?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of start off with like general thoughts, expectations going into this movie.
So my expectations were it was going to be garbage, right? that right, was what I was anticipating. It's going to be garbage, just pure garbage.
Yeah, because it's going to be no good. It's going to be a complete waste of money.
Yeah, biggest waste of money ever. And that was my expectation going into it, and I was primed and ready for that.
Yeah.
And God, yeah. I knew what was going to happen, so everything was spoiled for me, like because of the book.
Right. Yeah.
I was going in there hot. I wasn't paying attention to anything. I knew it was going to happen. I don't need people telling me this and that. Okay, I know what's going to happen. It's going to be garbage.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
And so how did it meet those basement level expectations? Clearly hopefully it exceeded them if you managed to keep them.
I just finished watching the movie an hour ago, hour and a half.
Yeah.
I wanted to cry throughout the whole entire film. Like this is
awesome.
It's so perfect. Like for me, it's just so absolutely perfect. Like it's everything I imagine. There's differences from the book, but it's just like for an adaptation, it's like you couldn't ask for more. It's perfect. Like I loved it. For me, it's perfect.
That's great.
Like, I just wanted to cry like throughout the whole thing, like having those Tibetan throat singing little hints here and there. It's just like, oh man, this is so awesome.
Yeah. You're on cloud nine.
Yeah, cloud nine right now. It's so good.
That's awesome. Yeah, I want to pick your brain a little bit more on kind of how it's great to hear that you still love it as an adaptation, even though, because like I have heard some people talk about the like major differences and everything, and some things they maybe couldn't do with the movie that they had to leave behind. But it's cool to hear from a book lover's perspective.
Understanding film and how to go about it a little bit, right? And reading the source material. It's like there's certain things that you can't completely translate onto the screen. And so like if you understand movies and you know the source material, you appreciate the effort that everyone put into this film. And it's great.
Awesome. Michael, you were on for the Part 1 review. How did this measure up for you?
I would come out saying I probably enjoyed part one more, just because
Oh, okay.
I feel there was a better use of time in terms of things.
Interesting. Okay.
Which, like, obviously I'll talk about specific scenes that felt kind of weirdly placed later, but to be
Okay.
clear, before everyone kills me, I thought it was fun. No, I thought it was a I thought it
I
was a
thought it
pretty
was okay.
get my YouTuber voice going. I thought Dune Part 2 was pretty good. No, I thought it was a pretty darn solid movie. But just in comparison to the first one, I think there was some timing issues that I don't agree with.
Okay.
In a broad sense, I was like struggling with this on the way home, where it was because I didn't know they were doing a part three. I thought they were going to pretty much cover the events of the first book and then, like, boom, that's it. Denny Villeneuve's going to go off and do something else. I didn't know they were going to do part three, which I guess would start covering some parts of the second book. I don't know if they're going to do the whole Doom franchise. That Denny Villeneuve's going to be dead before he finishes that. They're gonna have to clone him. It's a future reference. But no, that's But on the way home, I was like, what scenes would you put in the second one? Sorry, in the third one, like what would you take out? But I was like, no, it just needed to be half an hour longer. You just need to make it like that full 3 hours. I was like, some parts of this, like, we didn't get enough Skarsgård. We definitely didn't need enough Skarsgård. No, wait, am I confused? Which one is the fat evil man?
Yeah, that's Skarsgård.
Is
Yeah,
this
okay.
The Baron. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted more Baron. I wanted more Baron.
Gotcha.
And Dave Bautista, his arc was like kind of a wet fart in some aspects, where it was like it felt like he should have gone through more stuff, like how much they built up. Or maybe that was the gag with his character, was he's this big strong man who never really kills anyone. He's like, the second there's a slightly bigger, slightly stronger man, he's like, I don't want to die. But overall, to not like just harp on stuff, I think that it did meet some expectations in terms of visuals. It didn't hit me as much with Arrakis being like a beautiful desert as like the first time, because that's not. And I think I think that was a good thing, because the first Dune's supposed to ingratiate you. Oh, there they are.
Was that your phone?
Sorry, that was me. Sorry.
Very
Still
close to the microphone.
But like the first film, I think the goal was to like ingratiate you to Arrakis, to be like, yeah, it's a desert planet, but look how pretty it is. Look at the dust sparkling, really nice, really lovely, all the great stuff. This Dune is about the beginnings of a holy war. So that it's supposed, and I think they did that well in the fact that when you look at specific scenes on Arrakis, it's like, this bitch is dry. Like when they go to the temple, the outside of the temple where everyone's standing there, when like
the huge crowd.
Well, before the huge crowd, when it's just like a couple people.
Oh, okay.
And then it's just like this sandy block.
Oh, yeah.
With somehow even drier sand.
Like the temple in the south, you mean, right?
Yeah, like everyone's just like bone dry. Like you really get the impression of it. I think they did that well. Harkonnen was interesting, because I thought that Dune was more light sci-fi. I wasn't ready for a black sun. I wasn't ready for that. And this is general thoughts, but like before I forget, I have to bring this up. I thought that his name is escaping my mind now. The skinny evil man, Baron Harkonnen's nephew.
Fade Ralph.
Oh, I forget his name.
Yeah. I thought that it was all Harkonnens all were just like pale.
Mm-hmm.
But then when he goes inside, he's normal skin color. So the sun just does that. So some Harkonnens are pale. Is that like a makeup thing? Is that like a makeup thing? Or like...
No, I think it's just not touched on explicitly, but the impression I got was like the black sun just drains any color from like anybody. And I like maybe some Harkonnens are a little bit paler.
It's not a little bit paler. Let's be fair here. The Baron's white as a sheet. He's not really like,
but like especially so like in that gladiator arena
Yeah, because
scene.
they had some of the Atreides in there, and they were white too. I was
Like,
that just mhm.
yeah, when we got a couple of those transitional scenes, which were like some of my favorite parts of the movie, where they go from the indoors to the kind of balcony areas,
Mhm.
Oh,
and
loved
it's
loved it.
yeah, and you get the like more flesh tones on the Harkonnens, but then they just
Yeah.
completely drain of color, and like Fade Ralph's teeth even go black, like his whole mouth goes black and everything.
I think that was an actual like warrior kind of intimidation thing because you could see like when he comes inside, like there's actually black goo on his teeth.
Mm,
So I think like he specifically like put stuff on there so that when he goes out, it just looks like
Mm.
a dark maw. But that is one of the things I enjoyed is like it looked like a set like it looked like they built their society around H.R. Giger and his paintings, just like
mhm.
how everything's almost like curvy like flesh. It's really gross, and that's great because they're just
Well, and it's cool too. Like Danny, you might like go into this a little bit
like
more. I know
Danny. It's
with
cool like Danny.
Danny's cool. Um, it's interesting, or it's really cool that they bring that inspiration back into this adaptation because H.R. Geiger was supposed to be. Correct me if I'm wrong, Danny, if I get this wrong, but he did concept art for an early like draft of a
Yeah.
Dune adaptation.
Yeah, there's a documentary, Jodorowsky's Dune. Is very
Hmm.
good. I highly recommend it. But he hired the Geiger guy to
Hmm.
do concept art for the Harkonnen. What do you call it?
Like Planet,
Yeah,
Clan, or whatever.
those guys. And the aesthetic in the film is very much
Very
how the
evocative of that.
concept art looks. Like the documentary shows a bunch of his concept art, and it looks very, very similar to that.
It's awesome that they
Yeah,
decided to kind of embrace that a little bit.
yeah.
Um,
I did at least enjoy it in the fact that like I made the joke last time we did the review link below no I made the joke last time about how the Atreides homeworld was planet Ireland with the one cliff
Yeah.
green pastures, and they have their meeting on the one cliff. He talks to his dad on the one cliff, and his future vision of the rebellion that blackens the stars, it's on that one cliff. It starts there, the one cliff.
mhm.
So that was fun to like at least like expand the universe a bit more and get some more different locations. Um, I would have liked to see not only more of the Emperor, but more of the Emperor's planet, because you'd assume that like his planet has to be baller. Like there has to be like a discotheque every 3 steps or some shit. Like because he's got infinite money, so you'd think that like
Jesus,
Well,
I am sorry. How do you? I can't. I hold on. I'll fix this. Don't worry. Keep on going. Keep on going.
okay.
uh, uh, that's the Emperor. He's like, "Are you shit talking my planet? Hey, you, are you shit talking my planet? I can't do.
You can't do Christopher Walken. That's
I
okay.
can't. Sorry, I can do a little bit of like, are you shit
Okay,
talking my
that's
planet?
better.
Are you shit talking me right now? I'll kill you. um, but no, like I would have expected something more from there.
Hmm.
Um, and it does feel like there's some missing pieces in terms of like the Emperor and his daughter, especially his daughter. But maybe that's to build intrigue, or maybe it's just Denis new yelling, "Go read the books." I'm just doing the visual flair. Go read the books. Um,
I mean, to kind of bring in your previous comment about the Baron as well.
mhm,
I like my read on the part two is that everything that was there is like foundational, like is there to get the point across. I guess for lack of a better term, it's like all of the quintessential stuff that's absolutely
mhm,
necessary. I do agree that you easily could have gone for the 3 hours, um,
Mhm.
but I think depending on how like physical media releases and everything go, um, I would really love to see a like Lord of the Rings esque extended like version, and have all of those supplementary scenes because I do think these two movies, both part one and two, work as is, and are like very, very good movies on their own. And I think any further uh, like development of characters or like embellishment of like set pieces or whatever will only like further that. But
mhm,
I can definitely see where you're coming from with like some of those characters, specifically like the Emperor and his daughter as well.
mhm.
I did want to learn a little bit more about them, but the stuff that was there, I think I think was enough to kind of understand the plot points where they were involved more.
Mhm.
But yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's there's some things that I would have liked to seen more of, but I did enjoy the execution
Mhm.
of just how quickly the emperor fell, because usually, and I don't know where I'm pulling this from, the space emperor is a pretty powerful guy with a pretty powerful army. He'd be able to like fight in some sort of star war, if you will.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but in this case, it was
In a
just like
galaxy like really, really far away.
it can be close. It doesn't really matter
Oh,
that
okay.
much.
Okay.
Um, but like
We're
it
talking
was
about Star Wars, everybody.
Oh, that's what that was. Didn't even cross my mind.
you silly fools talking about Doctor Who. In any
Oh,
case,
easy to mix those two up,
Oh,
to be
yes.
fair.
but I enjoyed how like militarily they were either so overconfident or their power was built up on just like this idea of prestige so much that and I say this lightly, a couple of nukes and some giant worms and the Emperor's Dunzo.
Yeah.
It's just like the bit where you like his royal guard goes into the smoke and you think you're gonna get like another scene from like the first movie where it's like, you know, those guys floating down, it's like this big like fight between them and like the commander. It's like, no, they're just dead. They walk in the smoke, they're gone.
I think that does demonstrate the like power levels, though, a little bit
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
the Fremen versus the Imperial Guard. And I mean, like, if you look at part one as well, they also had the element of surprise in that specific instance of the
My
fall of
favorite
House
bit was
Atreides.
when the Blackguard came down and said, "Gotcha."
Yeah, like also like Paul Atreides, he's a master tactician now because he drank the water of
Oh,
life.
right. Yeah,
The
yeah.
Now
worm goo.
he can
Yeah,
see
the
all the
worm
different, the worm piss. He can see all the different paths, right? So he picks the proper
Mhm.
path, and things just fall into place. Now,
That I did enjoy another bit relating to that, where like he clearly like saw in the future where like the proper path for like how this has to go, and he takes the Empress's daughter's hand, and then there was some really good acting from Zendaya when where you could see on her face she's not only betrayed, but she a little bit of her also like understands where
Yeah.
like he's not doing this to gain power, he's doing this because he feels forced into it, and he
Yeah.
sees like the best possible future for her, but like she hates it
Yeah.
because it's like throwing her whole worldview upside down. Like lots of really good face acting.
Yeah, like I'm not a huge fan of her as an actress, but in this movie, she did a fantastic
Really
job.
well.
Because like during that moment there, she had like a little twitch in her eyelid. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think that was probably one of the things, and I touched on it briefly in the spoiler-free review, where I thought I could have used a little bit more uh, like time between Chani and Paul,
Mhm.
and specifically with their how their relationship kind of diverts after he's taken the water of life, and just kind of seeing those ideologies clash a little bit more. Not even necessarily, maybe it's not necessarily stuff between her and Paul, but just those kind of ideologies of the Fremen being a devout like following of people versus like fighting for their freedom independently and not needing to wait around for this savior messiah figure.
Mhm.
I think I could have used like a little bit more of that, and then maybe just a little bit more personal development between Paul and Shawnee as well. I did like what was there. I loved the stuff on like when they're sitting on the dune and talking about swimming on his home planet and everything. That was really
Planet
good.
Ireland.
Planet Island, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, there's really not much else. I definitely see the qualms with the lack of like, because I kind of see the Harkonnens. I mean, you're kind of supposed to a little bit, or I guess it would be inverse since Star Wars came after. But like, I see them very much as like the Empire, and there's not like a ton like from the OG trilogy. there's not exactly like a ton of time spent on like developing Darth Vader and the Emperor and Tarkin and everything. And they're there to service only what they need to, right? And it's more this kind of grand plan with part two of the Bene Gesserit and what parts they play in kind of the chess pieces that they're moving around, controlling each of the houses and everything. I found that so fascinating, and I'm so glad we got a little more into that, like learning about Leia Seydoux' character and like seducing Fade Routha and everything to secure the genome or for like the bloodline and everything. That was really cool. And then even they have their fingers in like the pie, I guess, if you will, of the Emperor's daughter and controlling her, and she's another Bene Gesserit like acolyte or whatever in training.
They have their fingers in the Emperor's daughter's pie.
I know. I've realized when I said it, it's not the greatest, but I have to roll with it. I got to commit.
Well, I like little hints to like just kind of, because as far as like space magic goes, Dune space magic is like a little bit of hit or miss. Like, don't get me wrong, clairvoyance is solid, especially because like their clairvoyance isn't like a man on a beach going like, you must take one of the two roads. It's more of like the weatherman saying like, and in 3 years the Emperor will take this road.
Yeah,
like it's a lot more clear. But like you kind of get this like the Bene Gesserit themselves are clearly like they're not really fighters. If you put on some earmuffs and you have a Glock, they're done.
sure.
But you get like hints of like what kind of power they have when the Empress's daughter is like it's a girl as you requested, like the night after having coitus. I was gonna say sex, but we're gonna keep things PG.
This is a family show.
Yeah, after getting her brains fucked out, she
fingers in pies, if you will.
After he puts his fingers in her pie, she immediately declares that it's a girl like they requested. Like she can just be like, all right, I controlled it. Which is like a scary level of power.
Yeah. Well, and they're effectively witches, right? Like the poison transmutation stuff with Lady Jessica at the beginning as well, right?
Well, it almost feels, if it weren't for the voice, which maybe you could construe as like like you can construe all this in like a pseudoscientific way, where like maybe the voice is like vibrating a certain part of their ear chambers. And like maybe the clairvoyance is like the spice is activating their brain so much they can see the way electrons will move and all that.
They're using 100% of their brain.
Morgan Freeman, get out of here! You got to explain this. The human mind only uses 10% of its power. See, I can do Morgan Freeman, okay, but I can't do Christopher Walken. But no, it gives this sense that like they're not only witches, but like they just like have control over every cell in their body. Which almost makes it feel like that's the way that Timothy Chalamet's mom got past the poison. Is she was just like telling her body like, nope, that's fine, just pass it. It's like it's just gas, really. Don't you go into cardiac arrest now? I don't know how I feel about magic space fetus.
Okay. That was probably one of the like lesser developed parts, I guess, of the movie.
It's not even developed. It's just weird.
I thought it was really cool. I thought visually it was very interesting.
Yeah, like in the book, it progresses further, but I guess Denis Villeneuve thought to cut it off at a certain point before the next book.
Yeah, that feels very much like seeds being planted for Messiah, I think.
Yeah.
No, they're not going to bring that up again.
Never touch on it again.
Yeah.
Like Paul's gonna turn to his mom like, "Hey, what happened to my sister?" She's gonna be like, "What sister?" Like, "Oh, never mind."
Sister? Yeah. Anya Taylor-Joy was cast for that one scene on the beach, and
no, it's just I think I would have liked it if they like even just from a filmmaking perspective, if they almost made it look like they were just going insane, because at one point you hear the baby with the camera. They put the camera in her stomach. Obviously, that wasn't CGI. And you see like a blue fetus, and it's
that's what C-section stands for, camera.
Yeah. Well, like they put the camera in there, and like the baby is like, "Oh, what's she doing, mom?" And then like you hear the voice. I would have almost liked it more if you never hear the baby talk, I was fine with the beach
Mhm.
scene because that could also be construed as like craziness, but like her looking at her stomach being quiet, and people like asking her to talk to her stomach and taking advice from like a baby they can't hear is just, I find that more entertaining. And you can do like some storytelling, like did the juice just make them insane?
Leaving it a little bit more ambiguous. That's
Yeah,
I get that.
Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah.
wouldn't have.
They have to be careful where how far they're going to take this story
Mhm.
because it gets really out there towards the end, like the
Oh
later.
yeah,
Yeah, it gets out there. So I don't know. I'm not sure where they're going to end it, but we'll see.
Mhm. Well,
they
and I
ended.
think this one does a pretty damn good job of also wrapping this whole kind of
Yeah.
piece of the story up because
Yeah.
it very much like it wraps up the whole part of the story of like House Atreides falling, Paul like ingraining himself with the culture of the Fremen more, taking on the role of like the Messiah figure, and then getting revenge on the Emperor. And that
Mhm.
kind of whole arc is a nice, neat package between these two movies. And then I think there's enough seeds to be placed for a potential sequel because I still don't think Messiah has actually been greenlit yet. I think it's still very much in like the
I
rumor development phase.
Yeah, I
But
pray to God, like they'd be freaking idiots not to greenlight it. I pray to God they greenlight that movie. Of
it'll
course,
be
they have
very,
to. They have to.
you never know.
Oh yeah, they did cancel Batwoman, was it the
Yeah,
movie?
Batwoman,
they
yeah.
Batgirl.
canceled Batwoman. Well, they made the movie and then they canned it, like
Yeah,
they're
they
doing
canceled
with
it.
Acme versus Wile E.
Wile E.
Coyote.
Coyote, yeah.
And that's some dog shit because I love animation, but also Batwoman had Brendan Fraser as the supervillain Firefly, going around and setting fires and being a burn victim. And
Oh yeah, that's
no,
right.
no Brendan Fraser burn victim. How is that
Darn.
fair?
Damn, we really,
We
really
have to
missed
set
out
him
on
on
that one.
fire for real now to get the same experience.
Yeah. And Michael Keaton too was in that movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I only care about Brendan Fraser.
He was focused on the burn victim. Yeah,
Encino.
Danny, I would love to hear more in-depth kind of highlights and or lowlights if you have any big
Um,
lowlights that stood out to you.
one one highlight for me was like the editing in part one was jarring, not jarring, but like it fit so well with how the inner dialogue was going within the character.
Hmm.
And now the editing in part two follows the story so well. Like it's like the editing in part one wasn't jarring, but like he got hit by visions and stuff, right? Whereas this one, it slowly fades in because he's getting better control of his visions. And especially now when he drinks the water of life, he's in control. He sees everything he wants to see now, right? And the editing followed that beautifully, I thought. That was a highlight for me because like it felt like it was the same movie, but it was felt like it was cut differently. Like to
Okay.
me, I enjoyed that quite a bit, and the
Cool.
cinematography,
I mean,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, it was fantastic. Like, uh, I forget what cameras they used for the Harkonnen battle scene, or
Oh,
like,
the infrared cameras.
yeah, but like that
All
just
that stuff
worked
was
so
so
well,
cool.
and like it going from color to black and white as they entered the
Well, and
stadium.
the Benny Gesserit witches, their whole gowns go from like
Yeah,
all black to all white. That was so
yeah,
cool.
I freaking love it. Like it felt the movie felt more so than the first one, very like 80s aesthetic, but
Okay.
not gimmicky.
Hmm.
Like the Harkonnen is floating in, like the Baron Harkonnen is floating in his chair, and he's got these spheres next to him, and there's a close-up shot, and it looks like it could easily be part of an 80s movie, but it works so much better. Like it just looks so good and it
You're
fits in so
saying,
well.
are you saying like 80s, like it would have been made in that time, not like it's evocative of the 80s?
No, it's
Like,
not like, yeah,
yeah,
like
okay.
it made of that time, but
Yeah, yeah.
like done
It was
correct,
pulled
like
straight out
properly.
of that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's like the practical effect
Yeah.
done so well where it's not you're not guessing Oh, like
There's
it's
there's a
burning.
great blend of like practical effects, like
Yeah, yeah,
puppetry,
yeah, yeah,
like special effects and everything, right?
yeah,
Practical
yeah,
sets.
yeah.
Yeah,
Loved
I
it.
agree. Yeah. I think
I
this one does kind of to touch on your point real quick, Michael, going back to the uh it was something to do with the pacing, I think.
Oh yeah, it was just
Or
it didn't
the like world
feel
building.
well. It didn't quite feel like there was enough time given to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I think this one definitely feels more fast paced and more plot focused,
yeah,
whereas I think the first one felt a lot slower, and it like kind of took its time with developing this world building,
yeah,
and that's kind of where the setup and the payoff kind of come in to play a lot more. You like really have to uh, be like have part one at the front of your mind and fresh to be able to like kind of fully appreciate everything that's happening and to be able to almost keep up with part two,
Mhm.
I think.
yeah.
So it'll be interesting to hear kind of the general reaction on that, because I imagine a lot of people, like the general audiences, probably haven't seen part one since it came out. So
Why
it's
is
going to
this
be
baby blue?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think the the payoff is there though. Like there
Yeah.
is a ton of action in this movie and a lot of really cool set pieces. Um, I do kind of think that so the sequence with Paul riding the sandworm
Mhm.
was the exclusive sneak peek at the end of the part one re-release. And I do think a little bit of that kind of hype and anticipation got deflated for me because I already kind of knew what was going on and everything. There's still a little bit after that whole scene plays out that,
Yeah, just a couple hours,
yeah,
a little bit after.
the whole back half is there.
Yeah.
Um, but I still really enjoyed that scene. Like you mentioned facial acting, Michael, that
Yeah.
like, what's his name? Stilgar, uh, he was an interesting character to see develop in this movie because he felt very like mysterious and stoic in the first film, and like I
Mhm.
kind of took him as like the Fremen leader.
Yeah.
But part two, and I mean, it kind of turns a lot of these archetypes and story beats on its head of like conventionalism and this like very stoic mystical figure, masculine figure, becomes this very like frantic religious fanatic almost, right? And it's
Mhm.
just very interesting, and I think he did a very very good job of like doing that. And he's like,
Yeah.
you can see the like belief on his face, like he just saw an act of God, right?
Mhm.
But
He
it was
drank the blue worm juice.
and survived.
The
Yeah.
asterisk is important. Lots of people drink the blue worm juice, then they wake up.
Yeah.
Not the Messiah.
um yeah, it just like the performances all around. Timothy Chalamet's bit in the I think in the temple in the south, the southern temple, where it's like the huge cavern with all of the Fremen and everything, and he does
Mhm.
his kind of monologue
Yeah,
speech where he
Yeah, yeah.
I love
convinces
that scene.
everybody. I love that scene too.
That was heavy.
I think that's a side of him we haven't seen before in
Well,
his
I don't.
acting. He would felt very
Oh,
commanding,
acting.
and he had the voice and everything, right?
Yeah,
Not just in universe, but he
he's
had.
gotta fit the Messiah role now
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like take control of the situation.
It
totally.
at the beginning. So that scene went through some very fun stages because when he first comes in, his mother is like whispering like "not so fast,"
Hmm.
and it seems like they're almost on the same page, but he's like not as conniving as her, so he's gonna fuck shit up.
Yeah.
But then like you realize, oh wait, no, he it's not him being overconfident. Like he has the balls to back it up, and then you realize, oh wait, he like can see the future, and he like in this future he sees he has to be like, okay, I gotta be the Messiah now. We can't slow track this. We have 20 minutes. I gotta get everyone in the car. He's gonna go down to the pool. He needs to go to the airport. We got a lot of things to get done right now. You start writing a novel. I want to. It has to be about romance. I don't care if you like horror more. It has to be romance if we're going to win this war. Like all the little pieces he needs to like have in place. You start a Rube Goldberg machine. Like that's like when a giant domino falls on the emperor. That's it's all the pieces got to be.
Sandworm rides a track with a marble. It's something special.
But no, I really enjoyed that scene. And also like I almost like how the Bene Gesserit. I was not expecting for Bene Gesserit to be on the planet. To be clear, I'm not as involved with the books as Danny. I've seen a few explainers, so I do know about how wild shit gets later, in terms of cloning and worms. But I was not expecting the Bene Gesserit to be on the planet there, and I like the way it seems like the Bene Gesserit have almost franchised religion. Like they've almost set themselves up as the McDonald's of religion. Like you guys understood what I said when I said franchise, but I just really wanted to say that.
Well,
so it's Bene Gesserit running McDonald's.
It's that kind of vision of if religion had never kind of fallen from like the apex of society, right? Because like there was a point in our history where that was like the top of the food chain basically, and it had control of so much over society.
Well, given
and that's kind of it on a like intergalactic scale almost.
Given their conversation about how to control, is it Fade Thanos? Mr. Assassin Man. Yeah. Given their you know how assassins do this, just like another Wednesday.
Good way to get the jugular.
Like their conversation about how to control him and how generic it was. In my mind, it's almost like the Bene Gesserit don't really care if you're religious or not. So, like for example, if like a sect on a planet is atheist, they'll just go the political route or they'll go the economic route. They're just like, okay, we'll control business. Yeah. It's almost like believe what you want, but we're going to be the priests and priestesses. We're going to be the folks who run the church. And you can have your version of the Messiah or your version of a pantheon, but we're the guys in charge. And they'll manipulate however you want.
Yeah, they're the manipulators. And I think it goes beyond religion, I think, because they're just like they control politics, they control economy, they control religion, they control magic, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I think it feels very evocative of early, not to be like derivative or anything, but it felt very evocative of early Game of Thrones, like Littlefinger in the shadows. Like you're seeing it front and center, and there you see them like planting the seeds to take control of all these different aspects of like society and humanity. And
it's also interesting. It's interesting because they have Paul Atreides' mom. I keep forgetting her name. I don't even remember.
Lady Jessica.
Lady Jessica. Mm-hmm. They have her take over the Reverend Mother position because they say they need one. It's not even that like they can go on, like not even they can have the teachings go on without her. They're like, we need a new one. Like our religion can't function unless we have like a thingy. Sorry, he doesn't say thingy. Can you do the thingy at the place with our religion stuff? Like we need that sorted out, you know? You cool with that? Awesome. Drink the blue juice.
I think the stuff with Lady Jessica, I thought, if I'm misremembering, was like opposed to the Bene Gesserit. Like she kind of goes rogue. Isn't that what happens?
Well, it isn't. It's just like it's the way that because their Reverend Mother is dying, and she definitely I can't say definitely, but I don't like they never like hint towards her being against the Bene Gesserit. So we're kind of left to assume that she's like someone faithful. Right. The way it's set up is, and I'm forgetting his name now, the Frenchman. I'm not good with names.
The Frenchman.
I remember. Yeah. Yes. He like the way he sells it to her is like he needs it to fall in line with the prophecy. Is that the mother of the Messiah becomes the Reverend Mother, super special Reverend Mother. And everyone else is chill with it because, like, we need a Reverend Mother, whether or not it's the Messiah's.
Well, and I also think he basically very bluntly says, you have to become the Reverend Mother or these people will kill you and take your water. Like, I'm pretty sure that's how that whole discussion goes,
Yeah.
and just kind of instills fear in them, being like, "You have to do this, or you're gonna die."
The Fremen are really good for stories in general because they don't take bullshit. It's like you either do this to move the story forward or you get killed.
They are survivors.
Yeah.
I think, like, just to touch on it very briefly, in the very beginning when they're draining all of the Harkonnen soldiers of water, that was very cool.
That gave me the willies. But it's also like, on the one hand,
and their water is shit too. So use it for the cooling system, he says.
Too many chemicals.
Yeah.
This man ate it at Wendy's. You can taste it.
Yeah.
This man, he tastes like 7-Up. That means that he does a lot of exercise. He's like palate testing. Oh, this guy's got heart disease. Tastes like Coke. Oh, not that guy. Too sweet. On the one hand, I really do enjoy the Fremen technology. Like, they got their thumpers, they got like their sandblasters, they got the water drainers, which I'm really glad they kind of just show you the water. They don't show like the body shriveling up, because that'd be like, ooh. There was like a 5-year-old next to me at the theater. I'm glad he didn't see that shit.
Oh my god.
He was funny. There was one point where Gurney says "Among Us," and he goes, "Among Us."
God damn it.
But like, I enjoy the technology, especially for the action. That was like some of the most fun use of lasers I've seen.
I agree.
Because
cool, man.
They've got these like big square launchers, and you think like rockets are going to come out, but like just this quick, like brownish beam. Yeah, just boom, and the whole thing just falls apart. And like, it's really fun how they're like, oh shit, like lasers would fucking kill. But then I do have questions. Like, Gurney kind of answers it, because it seems like there's some sort of underground trade network of people escaping Arrakis, or like trading, smugglers and stuff. And I guess that's how they would get weapons, specifically the laser cannons. But they hint towards the thumpers and like the bodysuits and a whole lot of stuff being Fremen made, and that makes me ask questions like, where are the facilities for those? How'd you make that plastic piping and leather, that combination leather? Because that's not.
They're not like what's the word?
They're not they're tribal and nomadic. Like, they don't have factories for.
But it's like, it's sci-fi, so like they do have some of their own tech, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, it's questions like that to raise a bit. But I'm sure there's like lines and stuff. Did Danny use lines in the book that explain that?
Did they ever explain?
I couldn't tell you right now, so I don't know.
Get out the book, read it to me.
You're a designated book guy. What the heck? You're not.
If that's the case, you got to find better book guys, man. But like, the Fremen have been there since the beginning of the planet, right? And the planet wasn't always desert. It was green with pastures, paradise, and then became desert. And then they want to bring it back again, right? This and that.
Make Arrakis great again.
Which is like a fun part of like the Dune ideology, where it's like, well, I guess I can't say what that part is, because that would kind of give away the next 4 movies if we're gonna do every book in 2 movies. Well, I guess like more like every 2 movies is like 1.3 books or something, because like you sneak a little bit into the next one. So like, well, I guess the final Dune movie will just be an hour. Like, Danny's just like, oh, I ran out of book. It's the end. Well,
I do want to touch on that a little bit more with you, Danny, of like experiencing it as an adaptation, and how that kind of measured up for you. I know you said like it's an amazing adaptation, but do you want to just kind of talk about that a little bit more?
Like
good or bad?
Yeah, like there's a lot in the book. There's a lot of inner dialogue, and like the first movie, the editing took care of all of that, right?
Right.
And I think it was done like it was done so well. Like, if you were to read the book, you wouldn't be missing out on much. Besides from what I can remember, besides the daughter in the womb of Lady Jessica, that doesn't progress as far forward as it does in the book.
Mm.
But yeah, like the I don't like how the book ends.
Okay.
And when I heard Denis Villeneuve wanted to do Dune Messiah because it ends like so much better, I 100% agree. Because in the book, it ends in that room where they have the fight and stuff. That's the ending of the
Oh
the
wow.
book,
Okay.
basically. And so it's just like, oh, Paul's gonna be Messiah now, right?
Holy War
But
is going to start. Bye.
yeah. But
Like,
like, there's no talk of holy war. The
Oh
other
wow.
houses don't show up, right? And
Oh,
this one, the
interesting.
houses show up. They disagree with him being emperor. Now the holy war begins, right? I guess that's Doom Messiah and stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, like I prefer the ending in the movie as opposed to the book. But yeah, man, it's
No
uh,
notes.
I
my
for, I forget if they like in what's his name? Freaking David Lynch's Dune. Was it David
Mhm.
Lynch who directed the
Yeah.
first Dune? Yeah, yeah,
let's say that. And hope it's right.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. They had the sound weapons, right, from the throat.
Yeah,
I forget if that was from the book.
I haven't seen David Lynch's Dune, so I
Oh.
can't help you there.
I remember seeing that scene from David Lynch's Dune. I thought it was like, well, this is both interesting and very stupid.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was so dumb. Whoa, whoa. A huge blast would come out. Uh,
Like
yeah.
when
Oh
it
my
goes,
god.
"Ah," and the planet starts breaking apart.
Big
No,
old
Daniel, no.
do yourself a favor and okay, after watching this cinematic excellence of a film, watch David
Your
Lynch's
palate
Dune.
cleanser will be.
Oh, I can't. I hate the Baron is so gross, and David Lynch is
Oh
doing.
yeah, yeah,
He's like he's got pustules all over him.
yeah.
He's not as clean and silky as Bill Skarsgård.
You'll see the contrast is just impeccable.
Night and day.
Yeah, night and day.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't speak much for the book because the movie just does it, just nails all the right spots. It doesn't vary too much.
Mhm.
I'm not a professional. I like in
Yeah,
terms of, I'm not a professional in terms of analyzing between the two,
sure.
and it's been a while since I read the
But like as
Dune.
a fan, like it.
Yeah, as a fan, like it just works so well. It hits all the right spots.
That's awesome.
I wanted to cry throughout the whole movie. It was just like, this is so beautiful. This is so amazing.
Yeah.
Right? It's so like I'm still on cloud nine. Maybe tomorrow I'll have like some things like, you know what, that was freaking bullshit.
Yeah.
But right now it's just like, oh,
I mean, we're getting you at a very fresh time,
yeah,
like mere
extremely,
hours after the movie.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
hours.
fair. I
I can
think
still taste the popcorn.
I am actually glad having I do actually I think want to sit with or like I want to see it again like soon. And this kind of went for part one as well. These are very dense movies. Like as good as they are, I think they are very dense. And
And I
I
love how
think
they don't elaborate too much. It's just like,
it's non-apologetic at all and it's very
So,
like respectable.
so sorry, I just had this idea of like you going back to watch the IMAX again, and Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya are there giving their thank you thing. Like, we wanted to especially thank you for like watching the special screening of the IMAX movie, except for you, Nick. And he points at your seat. You've been here before. You've been thanked. It's just like
Get out, get out.
giant Timothy Chalamet finger. This thank you is not for you. Heat 36F. You are not thanked.
Yeah, they're very dense movies. And I think they'll only like gain more appreciation like the more you watch them and the more time you actually sit with them, because like even just like kind of brushing up on the plot synopsis again before doing this review just so everything's fresh, I think it definitely helps. Because they're not turn your brain off popcorn movies. They
Not?
do require you to
Oh
engage
no.
with it a little bit more, I feel like. I mean, for me personally, anyway,
I didn't have
I
my
think
brain.
I get more enjoyment out of it anyway.
I
At
didn't have my
least,
brain on. Nobody told me.
you guys have brains. What? But yeah,
yeah,
I still very much enjoyed this, Danny. I'm very glad to hear that this exceeded your garbage expectations.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It was. Yeah, I never liked.
And
if I'm anticipating a movie, I don't want to praise it too much, so I
Totally.
get
And I
depressed.
think I was the same way. Like bits aside of calling it garbage going in, like
Yeah.
it felt very worrisome. Like scrolling Twitter and just seeing, like, especially like today, I was just on Twitter today seeing, like, even now that even more people are seeing it, like people just singing the praises, masterpiece. This is like one of the best movies of the 21st century, like of the 2020s. And it's just like, how do your expectations not go through the roof by reading
Yeah.
stuff like that?
Yeah.
So like, I definitely think temper your expectations. It is very like hardcore sci-fi. So it's not, again, it's not like Avatar: The Way of Water. To touch back on that previous before the recording. Um,
Nick's favorite
and
movie.
if you have the time, definitely watch part one beforehand. I would strongly recommend.
Yeah.
Um, but part
Yeah.
two is a strong
I
recommend.
watched part one based off of your recommendation the night before,
Oh,
and it
yeah,
helped.
okay.
It helped drastically
Awesome.
for part two, because like it was. I feel like when part two comes out on Blu-ray,
Mhm.
uh, if I'm gonna watch part one and I finish part one, you have to immediately go into part two. It's
Mhm.
like there's
It's like
no.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, it's like there it doesn't really, the part 1 ends in right in the middle of the story, and so
Yeah.
and part 2 just picks up
Picks up
perfectly, like,
immediately.
right
Yeah.
after,
Mhm.
right? And doesn't elaborate at all too much, just here and
Mhm.
there. This is the Emperor guy, it's Christopher Walken, uh,
Yeah.
which absolutely loved his casting.
Yeah.
Like, when he was like, towards the end of the film, when he was walking into that room where they
He's
fight,
walking.
Christopher
yeah,
Walken.
he's walking. When Christopher Walken's walking into the room, he's just like, "Oh, the Imperial ships are coming down on you," right? He's just like, it's that little hint there. But I think his, like,
Dude,
everything came
his
down to,
line his line
yeah,
delivery, like, he gets
oh
maybe,
yeah,
like, 5 lines in the entire movie, but,
yeah,
like, when he talks to Paul and he's like, "Your father was a coward," or,
yeah,
like, a weak man,
yeah.
like, that was very good.
His casting all came down to that one line at the end, like the
Mhm.
close up and the way he delivers it.
Yeah,
It's like, oh, it's so
masterfully
good,
done. Yep.
so good.
I really enjoy, like, again, like how kind of weak he is as an emperor, because he's like he doesn't, he gives up his pride in exchange for his life. He's just
Mhm.
like, well, if I gotta give up my daughter and shake this guy's hand and get to live tomorrow, bitchin'.
Yeah,
Well, he's not that enthusiastic about it. Like, okay, if I have to. But I'm really caught between the things with the houses, because on the one hand, I do feel that this duology has not done an amazing job of selling you how important spice is, because we don't spend that much time space traveling. And that's
mhm,
the whole point of the spice, is people, the whole trade network was based around this ability to travel through space.
Mhm.
Um, and I feel like that's where potentially involving the houses more or showing stuff on spaceships more would be great. But on the other side, I think if you involve the houses even with an extra 30 minutes, I think that's when things get very Game of Thronesy. Where, like,
yeah,
Yeah.
it's the greenhouse,
Or,
it's the
like,
red
very
house,
messy.
and
Yeah.
here's the king of the yellow house, and he has his vice commander and his, like, wife, and his, like, and then this is the one led by the girls,
In
and then
a,
they've got
like,
their thing.
long form series format, you could do something like that, very
yeah,
akin to Game of
Mhm,
Thrones. But I think the focus on the, like, 2 houses and the Emperor,
mhm,
uh, and the Fremen, I guess, uh, do definitely help. And I feel like Spice is more of just like a launching point and just more of a storytelling tool to then kind of jump
mhm,
into the whole story of House Atreides and the Fremen and power dynamics and the Bene Gesserit and how they're controlling, like,
mhm.
the entire society,
yeah,
basically, right?
yeah,
Because it just feels like right now, for me though, it just feels like we just have that one line with, like, he who controls the spice
Mhm.
controls the galaxy. Is that it?
Something
yeah,
like
something
that.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
Um, and it feels like I need a bit more show for that.
yeah,
I I'm writing stuff in here, and this scene would not work at all. But for example, something like having two of the houses get into a scuffle of some sort, and then it's like one house really wants something behind the other house, but they're like, well, if we fight them and we start having fights across here, we're going to run out of spice faster. Like, so like it's like the entirety of like a potential war or battle is based around whether or not we have enough spice to fight this, or like, okay, we'll let that thing go. Our spice stocks are too low. We'll get him next time, lads. Like Call of Duty, I'd like to have him show up. Have Call of Duty man show up and just say, "Don't worry, we'll get it next time, lads."
I think at that point it gets way more spacefaring too, though, right?
Yeah.
Not even the whole thing. You can even just have it be the Harkonnens who are doing it, or like then give them another reason to get angry at the Emperor. Like, well, we could take on this house in this space fight if it weren't for the fact that even though we're mining Arrakis, the Emperor is like withholding how much spice we can use.
He's controlling.
Something that's why he who controls the spice controls the galaxy. It's the Emperor.
Oh, okay.
That's why he's in charge. He controls the spice. Something like that. It's a really touch and go thing, because if you do it too far, you kind of lose focus on Arrakis, and it feels suddenly very Star Warsy or Doctor Who-y.
Right, yeah.
But if you don't do it enough, you don't quite feel the importance of spice. It almost just feels almost like an aphrodisiac in some ways.
Gotcha.
Have enough of it, you can see the future.
Well, I think that's actually what spice is in Star Wars, as a drug.
Yeah, well, that's a different conversation. You see the Spice Wars of 3400 BCE. There were Spice Wars, by the way, and Spice Pirates in Star Wars. But we can talk about that.
That's for another.
Danny and I can talk about that when you leave, Nick.
Yeah, perfect. Okay. And I think that's a good spot to wrap up this episode of the NoScore Review Show. One more thing?
There was one thing. Yeah, we were talking about Lady Jessica was like a rebel or something.
Oh, yeah, kind of. She was like she went rogue.
Yeah. In the first movie, she was supposed to make Paul a girl, right?
Paulette.
Oh, yeah.
Right. But Paulette. But she went against their orders and made him a boy, right? And they did the Messiah thing too early.
Right? He was supposed to cook for another 5 minutes.
So, like, Lady Jessica is pushing the whole Messiah thing, but it came too early. They were intending to do this, but years down the line.
Right.
Yeah, and so you should be careful with false messiahs.
And that's, I'm sure, a little tease for the next book and the next movie, hopefully. We'll call it there for this episode. Thank you, Danny and Michael, for joining me on this spoiler review of Dune Part 2.
Can I make a suggestion for, like, you're going to do the intro thing, right?
Sure, let's talk workshop right now.
Get rid of the music and just go.
I'll use that specific recording right there. I won't even use the Dune stuff. I'll use you just.
That was really good.
It was very good. He's a very good throat singer.
Ever since I watched the first movie, I've been practicing.
You saw it last night.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, initially when it first came out.
Part 1. Ever since Part 2 came out, he's been practicing at home for 24 hours.
Yeah. 24 hours at work, too.
Yeah.
People at work look at me weird.
Hear him in the lens room, and he's just doing it at work.
You okay in there, buddy?
All right.
Need some fiber?
All right.
It's amazing how the throat singers start harmonizing with themselves.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, you make a great point, Danny. Danny, where can the people find you?
Up after 2 hours.
Can the people find you anywhere on social media?
I don't have much.
Okay, great.
You have to know a friend of a friend to be my friend.
Oh, okay, yeah. Michael, where can the people find you? If
at Infinity Gohan on Twitter if you want to follow me for memes sometimes. We're getting followed by a lot of Japanese bots for some reason, so maybe something fun is going on there.
Sure.
Maybe it's from this show.
Could be. My entire audience is Japanese bots. Who knew?
I've never given them my Twitter handle until just now. So, but otherwise, things down the line, working on some things. So we can maybe talk about them one day. But otherwise, that's about it.
Sweet.
Cool.
And you can find me wherever you're listening to or watching this episode of the NoScore Review Show. I also did, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, a re-review of Dune Part 1 with Michael Bentley. And so if you haven't seen that yet, please do go check that out. And if you want to hear Matt's thoughts on Dune Part 2, then you can go check that out. The spoiler-free version, at least. I wasn't able to get him on for the in-depth spoiler review. Yeah, I'll have some other stuff coming down the pipeline. Things are still a bit up in the air in terms of release schedule and just kind of life things. So I won't promise anything too much. I'm hoping to do something for Bad Batch Season 3 and potentially Invincible Season 1 and 2, potentially. Just teasing those for now. But otherwise, follow me on all the socials at NoScore or at NoScore Reviews. And until then, we will see you all in the next review. Bye-bye.